Moving on to Episode 2, the player donning full luxury armor is still in the novice town, Firstia. Other players, of course, are puzzled about why such a skilled player is in Firstia. Other players also recognize the emblem worn by the full-armored player. He is wearing the emblem of a powerful conquering clan. The full-armored player seems to be searching for something. At that moment, it is revealed that the player is Seigari, the girl who has a crush on Rakuro. She already knew that Rakuro always uses the same nickname in all games, but she couldn't find him in this novice town. Currently, Sunraku is still facing off against the giant snake monster guarding the bridge. When starting the battle, Sunraku observes the snake's movement patterns first. He also uses the tap-step skill to gain a maneuvering advantage. Sunraku feels that the snake's movements are quite ordinary for a beginner-level boss. You could say the movements are somewhat monotonous. At that point, Sunraku is confident that he can win without getting hurt. However, the twin swords that Sunraku is using are immediately destroyed when he tries to attack the snake's body. He has no choice but to use the weapon obtained from the Vorpal bunny. Sunraku then targets the snake's head and uses the Screw Pierce skill to increase his attack power. Unfortunately, Sunraku didn't anticipate that the snake would take refuge behind its tail and release poison. As a result, Sunraku is afflicted with a poison status that reduces his HP every 10 seconds. It seems Sunraku underestimated the snake. Nonetheless, Sunraku will not give up that easily. He has completed games that are more brutal than this. With his HP decreasing by 1 every 10 seconds, Sunraku only has about 4 minutes. To defeat the snake, Sunraku must chain critical attacks. The key to getting critical attacks in this game is to hit the right target or strike vital points. The body of this snake monster is protected by tough scales, so its weakness must be in its head. Even though he knows this, it still seems difficult to attack its head. Therefore, Sunraku decides to create his own weak point. On the snake's body, Sunraku uses the Screw Pierce skill until it pierces the skin. From that wound, Sunraku attacks repeatedly. The wound becomes more severe, making critical attacks easier. Sunraku plans to keep attacking until he exhausts his own stamina. Unfortunately, the snake manages to keep Sunraku at bay to prevent further attacks. The wounds from the earlier attacks have already closed up. Even though he's almost devoured by the snake, Sunraku refuses to give up. He uses the Blinding Flash counter skill to dazzle the snake. Seizing this opportunity, Sunraku unequips one of his weapons to cling to the snake's hair. This allows Sunraku to finish it off using Screw Pierce directed at the snake's eye. When the snake was defeated, Sunraku leveled up to level 14. He also received drop items, scales, and hair from the snake. While he was celebrating, it seems Sunraku forgot one thing. He was still under the poison status, and now his HP was down to 9. With no time to spare, Sunraku used his points to increase his stamina and agility only. He wanted to head to the nearest town to find an antidote for the poison or locate a respawn point at an inn. Meanwhile, at the entrance gate of Secondal City, there were 2 male and female players chatting. It appeared that the girl was his crush, and the guy was named Rage. The guy's nickname was derived from his real name, Rigi, a trick to make Mia call him by his first name. During their conversation, they heard the sound of another player running from the direction of the forest. That player was Sunraku. Initially, Mia thought Sunraku was a monster, but Rage immediately recognized him as another player because he had a nickname above his avatar. Rage didn't want Mia to get a skull icon in her nickname for killing another player. Rage had a hunch that Sunraku was poisoned by a monster. Rage shouted to Sunraku to inform him about the location of the nearest inn so that he could safely update his respawn point. Based on Rage's experience, many other players had similar experiences to Sunraku's, so he knew what to do. Mia thought Rage was really cool because he seemed like a veteran player. Upon reaching the inn, the NPC attending to him was talking too much. Thankfully, with only 1 HP left, Sunraku managed to update his respawn point. After respawning, Sunraku received a death penalty that temporarily reduced his stats. If he had the chance, Sunraku wanted to thank the 2 players at the entrance gate. While walking around the city, Sunraku decided to buy a map, healing potions, and other equipment. As he moved, Sunraku's peculiar appearance naturally drew the attention of other players. While he was there, Sunraku also decided to purchase clothing. he bought the cheapest outfit made of sword-resistant leather. The matching head accessory looked like a villain's mask. Therefore, Sunraku chose to stick with a bird mask. Next, Sunraku went to the blacksmith. The list of weapons for sale at the blacksmith didn't really interest Sunraku. His Vorpal chopper was much better. The blacksmith confirmed that the Vorpal chopper was indeed a rare weapon. The only option for getting a better weapon was to forge a new one. The blacksmith was willing to do it as long as he had the materials. Next to the Secondal area, there was a swamp stretching to the third city, Thirdrima. In the swamp, there were many locations for mining minerals. Sunraku has already bought a pickaxe for mining in the swamp. However, it seems he won't easily find the minerals he's looking for. So far, Sunraku has been getting a lot of rock drops. According to the blacksmith earlier, it takes 5 or 6 iron ores to make a good weapon. Currently, he only has 2 iron ores after mining for 30 minutes. Additionally, the muddy terrain in this swamp is slowing down his movements. While he was still mining, Sunraku was approached by a mud frog monster. Initially, Sunraku wanted to ignore it because he was busy mining. However, the frog leaped and splattered mud all over Sunraku, testing his patience. After killing the frog, Sunraku still wasn't satisfied. He wanted to gather more minerals. Sunraku realized that more and more players were passing through this area. It seemed like the game would become busier due to the effects of the summer holidays. If that happened, competition for materials would be inevitable. To avoid getting involved in the competition, Sunraku decided to take the time to collect as many minerals as possible. After 3 hours, Sunraku returned to the blacksmith with many iron ores. The blacksmith was even surprised to see that Sunraku had obtained a swamp coffin fossil. With the ore, he could craft a swamp dagger. Sunraku accepted the offer and asked the blacksmith to make 2 weapons. After that, Sunraku went around the city to buy other equipment. Shortly after, he returned to the blacksmith to pick up his newly crafted weapons. When using the swamp dagger, after triggering a critical attack, the weapon's vitality consumption would be reduced by half. The blacksmith was more than happy to have Sunraku return. After all, his job was to nurture weapons. In addition to crafting weapons, it seems the blacksmith could also enhance them. For them, weapons were like their children. He intentionally used the word nurture to give it more significance. Sunraku only just realized how interactive the NPCs were in this game. They could respond to different sentences and situations. As the day began to darken, the blacksmith warned Sunraku not to go out of the city with such minimal protection. Outside, there were numerous dangerous nocturnal monsters. However, Sunraku ignored the warning. Since the death penalty had already worn off, Sunraku became enthusiastic about defeating the nocturnal monsters. Meanwhile, Ria continued to search for Sunraku or Rakuro. Currently, she was on the bridge leading to Sakandal, guarded by a giant snake. Surprisingly, Ria managed to defeat the snake with a single strike. Since Rakuro wasn't in the novice town Firstia, the possibility was that he skipped the first town, killed the snake without dying, and went to Sakandal. Even so, Ria doubted if there was a new player capable of doing that. Currently, Sunraku is fighting a nocturnal monster, the Red-Cap Goblin. While battling it, Sunraku comes to realize that monsters in daytime and nighttime are vastly different. Nocturnal monsters are more ferocious and dangerous. However, it's thanks to this that Sunraku can level up faster and acquire new skills. However, the Red-Cap Goblin he's currently facing is too strong. Its speed and attacks are far different from the regular goblins in the forest. In addition to having a high HP, this goblin can also use deceptive attacks. What's even worse is that the Red-Cap Goblin can call its companions to attack simultaneously. This is precisely what's happening to Sunraku now. Even if he were to escape with all his might, his safety still wouldn't be guaranteed. However, Sunraku is reminded that he has always enjoyed challenges like this. Just as Sunraku was regaining his spirit, suddenly, the Red-Cap Goblins are flung away by something. In that moment, Sunraku realizes that he underestimated this game. Don't get him wrong, Sunraku does enjoy this godly game. Nevertheless, it turns out that Shangri-La Frontier is not a shallow game. Sunraku mentions that on that day, he witnessed the true SLF experience. It turns out the Red-Cap Goblins were thrown by a wolf monster. Sunraku receives a notification that the wolf is a unique monster, Likan, the Night Slayer. On that day, We are shown the SLF game server room at the UES building. The statistics show that the progress of the SLF world story has been at 0%. To advance the story, unique monsters must be defeated first.